Hi, I'm Wade from Thoroughbred Diesel. Today we're going to be installing Fleece Performance's transmission cooler and transmission line upgrade for a 94 to 02 Dodge. Fleece Performance has come out with their transmission line upgrade kit for the 94 to 02 Dodges, and they also coupled it with a transmission cooler upgrade inside of this kit. Now, this is a big failure point for these second gen trucks. Seems like you're always having transmission line leaks. No different for me. Back in the winter, I had a transmission line failure. I called the guys from Fleece and we were talking through it. This kit was in the works, but it wasn't ready, so I had to rig something up on my truck. So there's gonna be a little bit of comedy today when I show you what I came up with on my rigging to get my truck up and down the road without the leaks. So I made a few adjustments to the truck and we got through it. But this transmission line kit includes a cooler that has 20% more surface area to it, so it's got more cooling capacity. The transmission lines are upgraded hydraulic lines, and they are 1/2 inch with aluminum A&N fittings. The kit also comes with all the fittings that you're going to need for replacement at the cooler, of course, and at the transmission. This kit is going to bypass the stock Cummins heat exchanger. So if you live in an extremely cold climate and you don't think that that's going to be good for your truck to get rid of the heat exchanger, then this probably won't be the kit for you, or you can fabricate some hydraulic lines to leave the heat exchanger in place. But for us, we don't find any need for the heat exchanger. The increased cooling capacity of this kit is going to trump having the heat exchanger in place, the stock Cummins heat exchanger in place here. So we did an unboxing video on this, so I'm not going to dwell on the things that are in the kit. You can check out our unboxing video on this. But another nice feature of the kit is for you 47RH guys, you early second gen guys that need a place for your transmission temp sensor. Fleece has got a in-house made fitting that comes with this that makes a provision for that. This will go right at the transmission. That's a really nice feature of the kit. Just like Fleece, man, they're going to put everything in the kit that you need to be able to do the install, and the better mouse traps that you're going to need along the way that are going to fix some failure points, they're going to make sure that those are in the kits for you as well. So like I said, it's been nice. I've been having to, I got to be honest with you, some of the rigging that I did on my lines hasn't been the best. I've had a transmission leak since this kit came out, so I'm glad to have this, and we'll have to quit dumping transmission fluid in my truck and ruining your driveways when I come to hang out with you. So let's go ahead and get started with our install. All right, to start our install, we want to start draining our transmission fluid wherever we can. Doesn't matter really where you start. I'm going to start up here because I want to get the transmission cooler removed first and just kind of work my way back. So start wherever you like, just as long as you can drain some transmission fluid out of these lines, the better. So we're going to start here at this quick connect. This is front of the truck, driver's side. These quick connects have got safety clasps on them. The safety clasps are engaged into the female portion of the quick connect here. So what you want to do is you want to pop the catch out back at the line. So pull down there and then pull back on the little clip, and you can see kind of how that's engaged in the line there. All right. These are 1/2 inch lines, and there's going to be a bunch of crud. So brake clean this as best you can so you can get positive engagement of your disconnect tool. This is the disconnect tool I use. There's several different 1/2 inch disconnect tools, but in our snap-on kit, it's the red one. You guys have got it. So, yep. So clean everything off there so you've got good positive engagement. Hit the internal portion of that with brake clean, because it will make you curse if you can't get it engaged. So cleaner it is, the easier the engagement is. So just engage your tool, have your drain pan ready, and then separate your line from the metal line like that, as so. Now you've got 2 lines up here that you want to do. You're going to want to also do this one. So I'm going to let this drain, then I'm going to get my second one, and we'll meet you up top, and we will start talking about removing the transmission cooler. We're going to go ahead and pull the bumper off and show you how to take the trans cooler out intact, and I've already done it. So you don't have to take the bumper off these trucks to get the trans cooler out. You can totally cut the line smooth. You just reach up in here, feel around for the where the transmission cooler transitions into hard lines. Reach up there and just simply zip the, you just cut off wheel or whatever is you feel safest with. cut them off flush, and then you can take your trans cooler out with the bumper on, no problem. We wanted to show you taking the bumper off because there's some of y'all that are going to want to do it like that because you're going to want to leave your old trans cooler intact, you know, whatever the reasons may be. So we're going to show you how to take the bumper off while we do this too. First off, you want to unhook your electrical connectors. If you've got the fog lights here, we do, so we're going to unhook those. And then I cut the quick connects off. You don't have to do that. You can. The quick connects actually they are clamped to the hard lines of the trans cooler. Just loosen up the clamps, pull the rubber tubes off. It wasn't worth it to me. I went ahead and cut them off so it can come out smooth like that. Then we're going to show you what holds the bumpers on. So the bumpers have got a U-shape. It's got a U-shape bolt and nut set up like this right here. Then it's got a single strap bolt and nut like this right here. And then it's got a single bolt that holds the side supports on. So Adam and I, we're going to do-si-do, and we're going to show you this. So 18 metric headed, here are your strap bolts right here. You will remove them. We got a do-si-do again. You got one bolt, which is your strap bolt that goes through the frame right here. So you want to remove that one, and then you've got your side support, last bolt here. You just remove that. So once you get those 8 fasteners off of both sides, the bumper will come off. Make sure you don't forget your electrical connector, no problem. So Adam and I are going to get our lights and stuff down. We're going to get our truck back down. We're going to pop this bumper off, and we'll show you taking the transmission cooler out. All right, so this is your original trans cooler. We've got the bumper off here. One word, if you're when you're pulling the bumper off here, if you fast forward through this, as that bumper goes off when you leave the side supports on at where it's attached at the ends of the bumper, and you unbolt it from the frame. The easiest way to do that is to roll the bumper down as you come down, and watch out for obviously all the, your AC condenser, because you don't want to bend the fins up on it. You want to roll that down, and then the bumper will fall out. So trans cooler, there are 2 10 metric nuts and a 10 metric bolt that hold this on to the stack here. So you can remove these. The Fleece kit comes with new hardware. You can keep these, reuse them if you want to, but it comes with new hardware. The new nuts that come with this are actually knurled, so they're a little bit nicer than the stock stuff. So you want to just go ahead and pull those 2 nuts and the bolt off. And where I left the hydraulic, or where I left the trans line on, the rubber portion of that, it gets a little trickier. So what I do is I just go ahead and get it off of the 2 10 metric studs, and then get it clear of everything, so I know that as I'm down here working, I'm not going to be making contact with anything. So I'll just pull just a little bit, kind of straighten that line out. Then I'll get underneath, and what I'll do is what I work it towards is, there's a large gap in the frame right here between the intercooler and the core support here. I just try to work the trans cooler out towards that, and then what that does is that gives me enough room to where I can work the trans cooler out with the rubber lines on. Now if you went ahead and took your rubber lines off, you don't have to worry about that as much, but where I didn't and I cut it free, just getting clear of those clamps and whatnot, that's the easiest way to do it. So that is your stock trans cooler out, and it's ready to accept our new Fleece trans cooler. We're not going to do that yet. We're going to get everything off of the truck, and then we're going to start from here and go that way with our install. So next we're going to be at the heat exchanger. All right, we're on the passenger side of the truck underneath, and we want to show you the heat exchanger and where your trans lines go into the heat exchanger. So the original circuit here, you have transmission fluid comes out of the transmission, goes through the heat exchanger. The heat exchanger is to warm the fluid faster. So you have warmer transmission fluid on a cold day, and it goes out of the heat exchanger through your transmission cooler, and is cooled, and then back to the transmission. So in that circuit, again, we're going to be eliminating the transmission fluid going through the heat exchanger. So we just wanted to show you now, your truck's going to be like mine, probably going to have a lot of corrosion and whatnot in it. So I'm going to show you a couple of tricks on getting the lines off the trans cooler, and we've got a perfect example here with this truck. So we had one of the lines on my trans cooler came loose perfectly. The other line, it's corroded to the line itself, and now when you loosen up the collar nut, it's wanting to turn on the line itself. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to cut that line and then remove it. But I'm going to show you where your heat exchanger is and show your lines here. So Adam's on the camera. So here is your heat exchanger lines. This is passenger side of the engine. This is the stock Cummins heat exchanger. This line right here, this came loose just fine. it's ready to go and we can drop it. But this line is wanting to stay attached to the line itself. The nut is wanting to stay attached to the line itself. So we're going to wind up having to cut it. So here's what you do. Of course, you want to soak those down with penetrating oil. What I like to do is when I'm ready to work on this, I like to come in here with a hammer and just go to the fitting itself, tap around on it really, really lightly, and hopefully that breaks some of the corrosion loose for you between the line and that nut. Getting it broke loose from the heat exchanger really isn't the problem as much as it is the line corroding to the nut. You guys will know what I'm talking about. If you are lucky enough to have a line wrench is really, really going to be your friend with this fitting. And I'll tell you exactly how I did it. Take 7/8, these are 7/8 again. I take a 7/8 line wrench. They're usually a little bit of a shorter wrench, and I work it onto my fitting. The position of that fitting right there gave me clearance to get past my downpipe. And what I did was I just took a BFH, and that way I could turn that sideways and I could hit that wrench like that, and then that worked it loose perfect. Not only are you providing enough force to knock it loose at the heat exchanger, but you are working some of that corrosion loose. Okay, we weren't as lucky on our back line here. This is absolutely just wanting to stay with the line. I cannot get it loose, so we're going to wind up cutting it. So I'm going to go ahead and get these fittings down. If you've got what's really nice too, I tell you what, if you got a 7/8 crow's foot, once you get this loosened up, you got a 7/8 crow's foot, that'll allow you to loosen it up really fast and get those two lines unhooked. So when we're going to go ahead and drop that, and then we'll move over to the driver's side of the transmission. I'm going to show you my little piece of artwork in my trans lines. All right, we wanted to come back and we wanted to show you the lines unhooked from your heat exchanger there, and I'm pointing to both sides of those. There is going to be a cap that comes with your Fleece kit that you can cap those lines off. The residual transmission fluid, once it comes out of there, you're okay. So, you know, but they do send a set of caps to dress it up, and we'll show you on our installation part of it. But now, this is what I really wanted to show everybody. You can call me Mr. Riggit, because I have done that waiting on this kit. I use proper temperature and pressure transmission lines to make the mends that I had in this line. I had a leak in this, and the lines coming to my transmission. I hobbled through here, leaked a little bit, never did really have any problems, but I was waiting on this kit, so here we go. So, you know, with this, the line is already hacked up. You know, we can cut it and get it out of here, but I'm going to switch over and get the camera out of my hand, and I'm going to switch over and show you the fittings on the side of the transmission here. As you're unhooking all of these transmission lines, remember you're going to have some gravity feeding, so you want to get the lines disconnected from the transmission as quick as you can, or you're going to lose all your fluid. So, all right. So we're back underneath of here. We wanted to show you our transmission lines. We've cut them. This is the rearward side. This is at the transmission. So we've cut the transmission lines here. I hope I've got enough light on that to see that. We've cut the transmission lines and we're ready to take them out. The transmission lines have got two holders that are on studs of the oil pan, and then up here, right up there, you can see there's another holder that just actually holds the lines together. So you don't get to separate them because that other one's hard to get to. But what I would suggest you do is the clasp, the latch for this is at the side closest to the pan. So I'll just unclasp the rear one. Same thing with the front one. I've already done this one. I like to cut the lines right here at the cross member, and then that gives me a free shot. You still got to take them out together because of that keeper that is midway down the lines there, but man, it sure makes it a whole lot nicer. So that's what I'm going to do here. And you can see my starter, and be aware of this. You want to make sure you take your positive cables off your batteries. I wasn't aware that that had that cover was gone off of that. So if the lines make contact with this, you're going to have a heck of an arc, so you don't want that. So you just want to make sure that you protect yourself there and make sure that you get your battery cables off. So we're going to go ahead and cut that at the front, and we're going to go ahead and pull these out, and then we are ready to install our Fleece trans cooler and trans lines. Been a mess. I mean, you got a lot of stuff that you fight here, rust and all the things, swimming in transmission fluid, blah 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 blah. But you know, the easiest thing I said, again, cut it, get it out of your way. All right, got our lines unhooked. Here they are, coming out as one shot. just like so. This is that keeper I was talking about. It's not attached to anything, just keeping the lines together. On these keepers that are on the studs, all you do with these is you can cut these and thread them off stud if you want to. But what I do is I just grab them with a good pair of pliers and then just pull straight down on them. Actually, you got to work them back and forth here just a little bit, and they'll pop off the stud right there. So don't forget to do your front one. Time to start our install of our Fleece trans cooler and line set. So first thing we want to do is we want to get these AN fittings that are in our kit. These are NPT mail in by AN, -8 AN fitting. These go into the side of the transmission. Inside of your kit, it will include a tube of thread sealant. Go ahead and put your thread sealant on here, and then we'll show you the transmission installing these and torquing them down. All right, we've got both of our fittings in at the transmission, one at our rear and one at the front right here. You want to make sure, again, you got your thread sealant on here, and then we're going to torque these down. Both of these fittings, we're going to torque these down to 22 foot-pounds. And it is very, very important that you do not over tighten these fittings. These are NPT fittings, and you can run these in too deep and just cause yourself a problem. So you just want to make sure that you get these snug down here. Torque on it's 22 foot-pounds. I'll be honest with you, I just snug them down real good. You know, make sure that you don't over tighten it, and then because you're going to get a little bit of tightening to some degree when you put your lines on here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to snug these down. I've got a torque ratchet on here. Click it off to torque, and then we'll come back and we'll show you putting the lines on. All right, it's time to install our trans lines. Now, in your Fleece kit, you're going to get 2 trans lines, one with 2 90-degree elbows on it, and then one is going to have a single 90-degree elbow and a straight connection. So we're going to start with our 2 90-degree elbows fitting. This one is going to go to the rear. So the 2 90-degree fitting hose is going to go to the rear port of the transmission. And on the RE transmissions, what we're going to do is we're going to route this through our shifter lever that's going to be right there. That was the way that the stock line routed, and we will start that on the fitting, but we're not going to tighten it. We're going to leave everything loose while we're routing our hoses and everything. And when we get finished here, we want to make sure that that's going to have clearance for our shift linkage there. So next is going to be our front line. Our front line is going to get the 190-degree and then the straight section. The straight section here, this is going to go to the trans cooler. So we're going to hook the 90-degree section up at our front port here. Again, we don't want to tighten. We just want to leave everything loose so we can route our lines. And then once you start these, you can leave these hanging, because we're going to go through next and we're going to replace one of the oil pan bolts here, actually 2 of the oil pan bolts here, with studs for our P-clips that are going to hold our trans lines and keep everything nice and clean for us. And then we're going to get our trans cooler on before we tighten anything down. We're not going to tighten anything until we've got everything where we want it, routed the way we want it, and spoken for. All right, before you route your transmission lines, you want to take your oil pan studs out. Now, in your Fleece kits, they're going to supply you with new bolt and stud combos. So you're going to want to just go ahead and take this out 10 metric and take this out of the oil pan, and you want to replace it with the bolt that's provided to you by Fleece. And of course, I didn't loosen that up enough. So, and the reason why that we're doing this is because we get new hardware for the P-clip that's going to hold these trans lines, and Fleece sends you a new bolt. So we're just going to change that out with the Fleece unit, and then after we get this one done, we're going to move to the front and we're going to change out our front one where our other OEM holder was, and we'll keep working towards the front of the truck. So again, don't route your lines till you get these done, because you want to make sure that you got enough room to work to change these 2 studs out. All right, so we're going to start routing our trans lines now. We've got both of our studs in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to route the lines, and I'm going to take the lines both over top of the over the front axle if you're 4-wheel drive, and then I'm routing it above that cross member, and Adam's going to kind of show it coming out there. That's pretty much your route going through. And you know, what you're doing here is you're kind of looking at where the line is going to end up in relation to that stud, because you're going to have your P-clip right there. So, you know, you see what you're looking at there. There's another wiring harness right here, so I think our P-clip is going to be long enough to get that away from those wiring harnesses. So, good to go there. So I'm going to shove my other harness through, same thing. I'm going to go behind the starter cable here, trying to keep the line above the cross member, like so, and then just routing it right out and through. You're lining up pretty good here, so it's got our lines where you want them. You can kind of got enough room to manipulate them to where you've got them both flat there. So yeah, that looks good. All right, so that's routing them over the front axle if you're four-wheel drive, or frame support there if you're not. Cross member, I mean. So we're good to go there. I'm just looking over everything one more time. Okay. Next, we're going to route around and up through the radiator. We've got to move our lights and stuff around, so we're going to cut our shot here, and we're going to come back showing you routing under the core support. So we're at the front of the truck now, and we've got our lines. What we're going to do is we're going to take our lines over this section of frame, both of them here, just trying to keep everything as straight as we can. And then there is a gap between the core support and the radiator right here, the radiator tray, and that is where these lines are going to go. We're going to put a long one through there, and that brings it all the way around, but that's your best gap through, is at that. All right, then same one with the 90 through the big gap, and then bring the lines around, and then that way they're ready for your trans cooler when you put your trans cooler up there. So check your end of your lines, make sure you haven't gotten any contaminants in them or the like, and we should be in pretty good shape right there. So we're gonna go ahead and let the truck down. We're gonna put our trans cooler on. We got our Fleece trans cooler. We're gonna set this up. The two 90-degree swivel fittings you will be connecting on this. And when you do these, you want to remove these two plugs, obviously, that Fleece sent with the cooler. And you want to check the passageways of the cooler, make sure everything is clean and free flowing, make sure there's no packing material in there anywhere or anything like that. Blow through it if you need to. I've already done it. Go ahead and install these fittings. These fittings are O-ring fittings. They've got a torque spec at 22 foot-pounds on these in the manual, but they need to be snugged down where they're O-ring. But the important thing that we want to do here is show you guys what you want to do as far as what to tighten down and for what. So you guys that left the bumper on, that cut everything out, I get it. Your bottom fitting, which will be oriented like this, your bottom fitting you will want to tighten down, because it's going to be harder to get to. So if you tighten that one down, all you'll be working with is your bottom fitting. But your top fitting you're going to want to leave loose. It swivels. And even though it swivels, you're going to want to leave it loose, because the straight line actually orients behind the cooler, and we're going to zip tie it to this cooler right here. So we just want to leave all that stuff loose. So you want to grab your hardware before you go to the truck. You got two new flange nuts that come with the kit, and another 10 metric bolt that comes with the kit to replace the old hardware. We'll meet you at the front of the truck, and we'll get this thing mounted. We're going to go ahead and install our Fleece trans cooler here. Now, one thing that we want to talk about, when you mount this trans cooler, you want to mount it to where you can mount it two ways. Well, you can only mount it one way, but if you can mistakenly mount it to where the cooler is outside, and you're kind of going to want to do that naturally because of the hose routing, and we're going to show you that. But the way this mounts to where the cooler itself is going to be dang near flush with the AC condenser. So if you look at that, they're pretty well straight across. That is the correct mounting position for this. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and catch this. We're going to put a couple of the nuts that Fleece supplies us with on the cooler itself. And one of them got behind us there. Something like that always happens when we're videoing. Throw a couple of those on there real quick, and then that just keeps us from dropping it. So the first line we're going to hook up is our straight connection. Straight connection, what we saw from the instructions showed us as this is going to go behind here and then hook to our upper fitting. And what I was saying about showed us, we noticed that the schematics that we saw showed the line behind here that just won't work. It's gonna get rubbed and cut. So we're gonna go ahead and install our 90-degree line at the bottom here. We're not tightening anything up. We're just installing the 90-degree line, and we're leaving it loose, but we're going ahead and installing it. And what our goal is here is for us to be able to move that straight line to tighten this up, and then have access to get to our bottom line as well. So with that, we will go ahead and we're going to put a zip tie on our straight line, and your zip tie is going to go use the 2 slots that are in the fleece cooler, and we're just going to pull it around like so, and we're going to lightly zip it because we want to be able to move this line till we can make our final adjustments here as we go along. Go ahead and put your bolt in that Fleece provides you, 10 metric head. We can leave that loose as well. Leave that zip tie as loose as we can. So that's what we're going for there, is to be able to leave that line there, but that'll still give us what we need articulation wise to get to our bottom fitting. So we're going to leave this exactly the way it is. We're going to tighten it up just a fuzz here, and then we're going to lift the truck back up. We're going to go after our P-clips on our trans lines and start tightening everything up, and then we'll finish up our tightening sequence up here. All right, it's time to put your P-clips on. So you want to make sure that your transmission lines are flat and ready to go. You want to put your P-clips on here that they've got. These are nice rubber insulated clamps, and Fleece sends a, well, because you're filming, you drop. And you hit your head. So Fleece sends a nice knurled 10 metric nut for you here, and you'll go ahead and start it. And of course, because we're filming, this probably won't work. Hey, it did. All right, so we're gonna leave that one loose. I've got my front one on already. Kind of know my orientation. My orientation let me realize that I'm gonna have to make an adjustment right here. I did not like this. I told you first, do this behind the shift linkage. I thought that this would give me enough slack. The way the hose length ran out, I needed to take it on the outside, and the outside works just fine. So I took that on the outside of that shift linkage, and when I tighten my line down, I'll be able to keep that away from the linkage itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and tighten up my P-clamps now. I'm going to put my drive shaft back in. Then we're going to put our front bumper back on. We're going to show you the clearance to the cooler, and we're going to wrap this puppy up. One more thing, you do want to make sure that you tighten down your lines. Now, you are in a good position now. You can tighten down your lines. Really cool thing, if you download the Fleece instructions, they teach you about the torque of A&N fittings. So like a -8 A&N on a 1/2 inch line, you would tighten it about 1.25 land. 270 inch-pounds, I think is what that is. But you just mark, when you get it snug, you mark it with a pin, and then take it about 1 land over of that. So that's basically what you're doing to tighten those up. So as far as the torques go. So I just want to make mention of that. Really good write-up on that in the instructions for this as well in the Fleece link. So now we're going to tighten up our P-clamps. We will tighten up our lines. Make sure that you use both wrenches here. You want to use a 7/16 or a 15/16 and a 7/8 on the line. You make sure that you're holding your fitting at the transmission so you're not over tightening it. And then we're going to tighten these down, and then we're going to we put our P-clip on at the front. I'll let Adam walk up here and show you that. Got our P-clip on up here. We've already tightened it down. That didn't change our sequencing up here on the lines very much, so we're good to go. So now we're going to tighten everything down, put our drive shaft back in, and we'll meet you back up front. Forgot to tell you, we've got these dust caps that go on the heat exchanger here. I've already got the back one on for us before we put our truck down here. So we're just going to do our front one here real quick, and these are just to push on little little dust caps, all you need to do. So we're going to put those on, then we're going to put the truck down on the ground, and we're going to put our bumper on. So we had talked to you about our straight line here. We liked it on the outside. It seemed like it fit a little bit better. Lesser of the two evils was riding on the front of this. When we fit our bumper up, we didn't have enough clearance, or we didn't like the clearance. There was one point on that bumper that line wanted to touch. So we just came back out and we kind of refit it all up. So what we did was, when you lay your straightaway line in here, the straightaway line has got to be on the driver's side of the orientation, and the 90-degree line has got to be on the passenger side of the orientation, for lack of a better word. And what that does is you get a little bit extra length of this line, and you can kind of manipulate it where you want it to be, and that gets it away from any of the pinch points here. So there are no pinch points here. This is good. So these are swivel, so it doesn't, even though these O-ring fittings are tight, you're still going to have articulation here. So when the bumper goes up, the bumper can simply push that out of its way. So it was good. So I'm happy with this. We've redone this. We may fix the shot inside of the thing when we talked about it, but we're ready to tighten this up. This will fit perfectly, so we don't have to do anything here. So we tighten up our O-ring fittings, and we're going to go ahead and tighten up our AN fittings as well, and then we check our hardware, and then we're going to fit our bumper on, and we're going to fill it with transmission fluid and check everything out and make sure we have no leaks. What we're going to do now is we got the truck down, we got the bumper on, we got everything squared up, we're ready to go. We're going to fire the truck up, and there's Adam. Will show you a little shot of the cooler with the bumper on it. Got it on the impromptu stuff. So everything worked out really good there. So what we're going to do is we're going to fire the truck up now. We're going to look for leaks. We're going to put the truck in neutral, because on the second gens you've got to check the oil level in neutral. So we're fired up, throw it in neutral, add oil if we need to. All right, guys, this concludes our installation of our Fleece Performance trans cooler and line kit for our second gen Dodge. It's really easy install, and I got to be honest with you, and you'll see inside the installation video, you're already seeing inside the installation video, I tried to outthink this kit a couple ways with my line routing, and what I really should have done was just go with what Fleece gave me, was with the extra length of line. It enabled me to be able to route the trans lines to where they're not going to make contact with any surfaces. I tried to outsmart the trans line up here by the bumper, and I tried to outsmart it by the transmission too. Didn't work out that way. All I need to do is use the added length that Fleece added to the kit, and that goes to, that's just a testament to what they do when they design these types of kits. They give you what you need for the install to be correct every time, and that's why we have confidence in their brand, and our shops that they put on the trucks that are in their shops, they have confidence in it as well. So big shout out to Fleece for sending us one of these kits to put on this truck. I had a transmission temperature gauge on the truck for a couple of weeks' time. I was trying to get some data before we did this install. Transmission ran about 170 to 180 degrees, just depending on what I was doing. That was unloaded temperature, but between upgrades and things, 170 to 180 degrees. I saw about a 10 to 15 degree decrease in trans temp with this cooler, and that lines right up. I mean, you got increased surface area on the transmission cooler, getting the heat exchanger out of it. I think that this is a very good thing. It was a great installation and a very well made product, very well thought out product. So again, big shout out to Fleece for these. Guys, check these out. If you got a second gen truck, I guarantee you probably got a leak in transmission cooler lines. You will definitely benefit from this kit. Thanks for watching.